So again, as I mentioned, this is my most recent version of the land acknowledgement, and it's still very long, and I'm still going to prune it down some, but it feels like everything in it is important. But I'll begin with this. I work at the Thames View Family Health Team here in Chatham, Ontario, currently home to many diverse First Nations, Indigenous, and Métis people from across Turtle Island. And it's situated in the traditional territory of the Potawatomi, the Ojibwa, the Anishinaabeg, as are all protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Chatham-Kent neighbors the Lunapui at Delaware Nation, which is part of the McKee Treaty Purchase, as well as the unceded territory of the Bakajwang Walpole Island First Nation. My goal as an individual is to acknowledge the First Nation people who have lived on and cared for this land from time immemorial, to express my gratitude to them, but also to acknowledge the traumatic impact of colonization from my ancestors. As a settler with ancestral ties to continental Europe, when my grandparents came to these lands more than 100 years ago, their survival was not dependent on the support of Indigenous people. The land where my ancestors settled had been changed and scarred by agriculture and industry. What should never be forgotten, however, is that those European settlers who came hundreds of years before my ancestors did would never have survived without the support, the generosity, the care, and the wisdom of the First Nation people that they encountered, people who had lived on these lands forever. In an attempt to live respectfully together, many treaties and agreements were signed between First Nations people and those settlers who came to colonize the land. Agreements were made and signed, but never entirely honored respectfully. Land ownership, after all, was a foreign concept for the Indigenous people to comprehend. How can someone own the land and the sky above? What does it mean to own? First Nation beliefs about the natural world were thought to be simple-minded by colonizers. Indigenous people wisely subscribed to the views that a person should share the bounty of the land and take only what is needed, not to deplete or harm what is natural, always leaving enough for the people who will come after. This is the meaning behind the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Those who colonized never honored the wisdom and generosity of the First Nation, not truly. The arrogance truly harmed and did much damage, as many Indigenous nations were completely decimated by diseases that colonization brought to this land, as well as the residential school systems. Today, we struggle how to acknowledge the truth and the pain and damage of our righteous, arrogant sense of entitlement and colonial history that was and continues to be responsible for the suffering of so many. But being able to give thanks to the stewards of this land who came before me, and being able to reflect upon the meaning behind the Dish with One Spoon, is an honor. This is something that I think about every time I'm nourished physically and emotionally by the bounty of our natural world. It's important for me to offer gratitude and thanks to the wisdom of those who came before me, those who had the wisdom and foresight to care for and respect everything in our natural world. I also commit to filling the dish, learning more about Indigenous communities, and sharing those learnings with the people in my life. In the spirit of reconciliation, let's do all that we can to acknowledge the reality of our shared and checkered history, to embrace and support the recommendations in the Truth and Reconciliation Report. In doing so, we work to build an environment of trust and respect to make this land a welcoming and healthy home for all people. As a visitor on this land, I strive to deepen my own understanding of local First Nation communities. I commit to reframing my responsibilities to the land and our community. I offer my respect for this land that I am on today and for the people who came first, as well as all the people who have come to reside here. As beneficiaries of the treaty and the generosity and care of the Indigenous or First Nations people, we must never forget but learn from our mistaken beliefs. Today, let's agree to the mutual sharing of the obligations and responsibilities and privilege to be stewards of the land, the water, and the air. We must hold all that is in this natural world in our highest esteem and give honor to the wonderment of all things in creation. And as I mentioned in my email to you all, tonight's meditation is going to focus on hope. And there are some really interesting lessons that I'll share with you about hope. But first, I searched out some poetry. And this first poem is called Finding Hope. And it's by a woman named Heidi Greco. And it goes like this. This morning, I'm feeding the birds, replenishing supplies in the little cracked saucer, the one that's sheltered on the window ledge all winter again. I'm filling it with seeds still tight in their shells, ones I hope the birds will disperse, carrying them far and beyond, sunflowers that will rise up from the broken earth. I'm putting my faith in their sturdy resilience, counting on them to grow tall and turn their golden faces to the sun. And those gardeners out there probably know the benefit of sunflowers and how they tend to grow in really, really poor soils and poor conditions. And they grow tall and beautiful. And in their growing, they sort of have this kind of symbiotic relationship with the soil and the things that they produce and the air that they bring in. And then their seeds will fall and their stalks will fall and replenish the earth. They're quite an amazing thing. And I remember once we had a house in Brantford, and for some reason, the people that lived in the house before us had used an awful lot of chemical, and it killed all the grass in our backyard. So, we raked up the dead grass, and then before we knew it, because we'd moved in late August, before we knew it, the snow was flying, and we really didn't get to do anything to that grass. Well, come the spring, it was most amazing because we didn't plant them, but this whole kind of crop of sunflowers just began to grow. We didn't know what they were at first, and then we figured out these are sunflowers, and they were so beautiful. We didn't have the heart to tear them down. So we just let them kind of grow and do their thing, and then toward the end of the summer, we just sort of let them kind of collapse, and they were covered once again by snow. But by that time, my son was older and really needed to have a backyard that he could play in. So we then planted grass, and we were told by some wiser gardeners than ourselves that that was probably the best thing that we could have done because the sunflowers removed a lot of the toxins from the insecticides or the herbicides that were used on the ground to kill the grass for whatever reason. So who knew? But that was something that's really stayed with me about sunflowers. So the next poem I have is called Of History and Hope by someone named Miller Williams. And this is interesting, so have a listen. We have memorized America, how it was born, and who we have been and where. Now, we are not American, but we all have in our mind the belief about what it means to be an American. We all thought it meant to be democratic and not necessarily in a political sense, but to be fair and kind and caring and go wherever help is needed. However, we have memorized America, how it was born, and who we have been and where. In ceremonies and silence, we say the words, telling the stories, singing the old songs. We like the places they take us. Mostly we do. The great and all the anonymous dead are there. We know the sound of all the sounds we brought. The rich taste of it is on our tongues. But where are we going to be? And why? And who? The disenfranchised dead want to know. We mean to be the people that we meant to be, to keep on going where we meant to go. But how do we fashion the future? Who can say how except in the minds of those who will call it now? The children, the children. And how does our garden grow? With waving hands, oh, rarely in a row, and flowering faces, and brambles that we can no longer allow? Who were many people coming together, cannot be one people falling apart? Who dreamed for every child an even chance, cannot let luck alone turn doorknobs or not, whose law was never so much of the hand as the head, cannot let chaos make its way to the heart. Who have seen learning struggle from teacher to child, cannot let ignorance spread itself like rot. We know what we have done and what we have said, and how we have grown, degree by slow degree, believing ourselves toward all we have tried to become, just and compassionate, equal, able, and free. All this in the hands of children, eyes already set on a land we can never visit. It isn't there yet, but looking through their eyes, we can see what our long gift to them may come to be. If we can truly remember, they will never forget. And of course, for obvious reasons, that really resonated with me. So now I have another poem. And this one is probably familiar to many of you, and it's called Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. And I will never be able to say it quite the way that she reads it with her lovely, she had a wonderful, wonderful voice, but I'll give it my best. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod on me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room, just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise, up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. And that is hope. Oh, okay. So let's bring some relaxation to ourselves. And my favorite way, of course, to do that is with a little vagus nerve massage. So hands on the top of your head. And those of you who have not done this before, but as I look around, I think all of you have done this. But again, imagining a little shampoo of your scalp, just feeling those fingers and using your thumbs to go all around the bony places around your ears and at your temples. And then, oh, that feels good. And then to your eyebrows, perhaps sort of gently pulling them apart so that they feel quite smooth. And then, placing your hands on your loving face, holding your face for just a moment, feeling the warmth of your hands. And then if there's any tension or tightness anywhere in your cheeks or your jaw, maybe even giving yourself a little jaw wobble. And then, rubbing your hands together. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some heat and then gently place or cup your hands over your eyes so that you're blocking out any light that's in the room you're sitting in. And then go ahead and open your eyes in the darkness of your warm hands. And there's nothing for your eyes to do in this moment except see the darkness and perhaps rest a little bit. And that can feel so good. And perhaps breathing in a little deeper and exhaling and releasing and letting go any tension that's built up through the day. And in a moment, I'm going to invite you to take your hands away from your eyes, but keep your eyes closed because the room that you're sitting in might be bright like mine is. And again, coming down to perhaps the base of your skull and giving a little massage there into your neck and feeling how that loosens and softens. And then combine that with a lovely breath in and out. Long, slow exhale out, releasing any tension or tightness. Bringing your hands down the length of your neck and especially giving some special care to the sides of your neck. All the places that the vagus nerve has so many nerve endings. And then, into the thick muscles that join your shoulders to your neck. And again, a nice little massage there, like you're kneading dough. And then bringing your hands down, perhaps resting them for a moment at your heart center. Just letting your hands rest there for a moment. Breathing in deeply and exhaling out, letting go, letting go. And then I like to kind of just give myself a little hug. Bring your hands to the sides of your arms and nice little hug. There you are. Here you are. Right here, right now. Nothing and nowhere that you're supposed to be doing or no place you're supposed to be, just right here, right now. And perhaps we can give ourselves a moment or two of silence. We like to do that, don't we? Just perhaps maybe, 2 minutes of clock time to just follow the breath. And of course, your mind may wander, and that's okay. Just gently welcome it back to your awareness. But let's begin that right now. Breathing in, following your breath gently. Whatever rhythm is there, to whatever depth is going to serve you best. Have it. That was 2 minutes. My, that went fast, or maybe it went slow for some of you. So I found this article and it's called Lessons from a Physician About Hope. And it really resonated with me for all kinds of reasons, but um, just important things to remember and things to think about that can grow hope inside of us. And I think most of us need a fair amount of that right now. Um, and one of the things that we're actually sort of trying to create right here, right now, with our Tuesday night meditation is a sense of community and sharing, and that even that, sort of sitting or practicing with individuals who share that value of being peaceful and bringing care and compassion to ourselves and to others can feel really good, and it can really help us to hold on to hope. So this gentleman, this physician, whose name is, oh, where did I have it? What is his name? Oh my goodness. Sorry, I thought he identified himself at the beginning. He just talks about where he worked. But I know that he did say it. So, those anybody else who wants to read this article, I will get you that for next week, or at least send it out to you so that you have his proper name. But he talks about his job and how it's very difficult sometimes because as a medical doctor, um, he has to look at the health of the individual, and as they present with problems, and investigate what's going on. And he likes to think about his job as an inherently hopeful activity, trying to solve problems. And that usually, they can solve problems. But as all of us are painfully aware, not all problems have possible solutions. And he shared a story about sitting with a patient who he had to give a very sad diagnosis to. This gentleman was stage 4 cancer and didn't really have a lot of time left to live. Um, and so it wasn't about, you know, changing the outcome for this gentleman. It was about what did he hope for, and he shared with his doctors that he really hoped to be able to be at his daughter's wedding in 6 weeks' time. And that was what this gentleman was really hoping for. And some of the specialists who were working with this fella, we'll do our best, we'll do whatever we can to help you. We understand that that's very important to you. So that's what the goal became, of course. So it adjusted and changed, right? It wasn't that, well, we hope for a miracle. It's what's the best that we can hope for. And so it's just really interesting that hope also seems to be a really, really vital component of our well-being. If we don't have hope, we can become quite sad, quite depressed, quite morose, like what is the point? Nothing's ever going to change. It's always going to be this way. And yet, if we can infuse some hope for something different, that nothing ever stays the same, somehow that can create some movement, some shift in some life, and that's just what we need sometimes. So what really matters is how all of us define hope, and maybe each of you have your own unique um, definition of it. There's a lot of very wise individuals who weighed in on this. Um, you know, Hope, as psychologist Everett Worthington defined it, is a motivation to persevere toward a goal or an end state, even if we're skeptical that a positive outcome is likely. So we don't know we don't have a certainty and we really don't know. And chances are it may not turn out, but we're going to hope that it might. And that really can bring a lot of lightness, and that in itself can create change. Um, because as all of you know, life is full of challenges, so many of them, and we have to try to carry on in the face of inevitable setbacks. And so there's a lot of research that actually decades of research that suggests that when somebody can be hopeful, that optimistic person, that Pollyanna person, which I've been accused of being my whole life, um, it leads to not only higher quality of life, but also to more resilience and creativity when it comes to problem solving. For those who have serious illness, um, and then they can have hope for miracles or hope for making it to their daughter's wedding. That has definitely a correlation between someone's increased life expectancy. And that's what this doctor shared happened. They were able to help this man meet his goal of living to see his daughter married. And and then afterwards he was content and ready to go, and he in fact achieved that goal. So that first definition, a motivation to persevere, um, kind of is a bit reductive, isn't it? Because um, hope isn't just one thing. I think it's many things, and I think it's sort of individual as well. And I think that hope is relative to whatever our goals and our plans and whatever we need to muster, whatever we want to have hope for in our lifetimes. And so often, that's what our loving kindness meditation is at the end of our practice. It's usually so much hope to bring so much light and care and peace to the world. And we hope that we can do that in our daily practices. And that's not just, it's just not a motivation to persevere. It's something a little more. And so he goes on to talk about, shooting for the right goal. What is that? Um, Sometimes it's really just having a belief that we can get through tough things, that we'll find solutions, we'll address them, we'll keep trying, we'll keep trying. But of course, what enters into that, or what sort of counters that feeling of hope sometimes, is fear. And fear is a natural human emotion and energy, and it's absolutely needed. We need to have fear. If we don't, we do damage to ourselves and other people. But can we courageously examine our fear, know what it is, and then sort of in our mind's eye, at least, or perhaps even with others, plan and share possible ways to manage the fear of whatever's happening in the moment, whether it's a real fear or a perceived fear or one that's just being threatened. Because that's the thing, is when we're aware of a fear, the next thing that we do um, requires a little more complex thinking. Like, we can't just run away. We sort of have to stand and courageously face a fear. And so we can do that. And when we do that and we sort of discuss and plan, what are we actually doing? We're sort of creating hope for something different, but it's very intentional. And we can consciously grow this so that it can be there when we need it. And so it can be, hope is like a really powerful, healthy response to fear. And right now, there have been a lot of threats that have caused a lot of fear in people. And, we want to run away. We want to do drastic things. We want to just get away. We want to not look at the news. We want to do many things. Um, but really, hope also is evidence of a desire for something different, a desire for change. And and if we can bring some steadiness and calm and creativity and optimism, then we have pretty good chance of meeting challenges. And I'm hearing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of that in communities across Canada, of people sort of coming together and facing challenges and not letting fear sort of envelop them like a tsunami. No, we're sort of being respectful and collective and kind, and yet holding our healthy boundary. And this is a lesson in our lives too. We may not like something, we might really not like something, but the more that we focus on how much we don't like something, and I hate feeling this way, and that's wrong, and this isn't fair, and all those things, all of that keeps us very, very stuck, and it doesn't move us forward. So we take a breath in and we think, what do I really need in this moment? What do I hope for? And that's the message. What do we hope for? And then just breathing out, breathing in, speaking it out loud, what we hope for, that changes an energy, and that creates a connection. And then maybe we can be more curious. Maybe we can, give some real powerful thought to a situation. Maybe we can share that. Maybe together we can formulate a plan. And that's really important when we believe that we have what we need in that way, and that we can reach out, we can connect with others and talk about what we hope for. Um, so it's really important to kind of recognize that there is something very powerful in our relationships, um, that help us to weather tough times, especially when we can feel really hopeless. It just takes one or two people to have some hope, to give us some interesting perspective, and that might just sort of create that kernel of hope that can then perhaps grow and get larger. And it is really quite contagious. Hope as an emotion is very contagious. And then when people come together and support, we motivate, we brainstorm, we strategize, and this can feel so good. Um, and that's kind of what we're doing right now. That's sort of what I'm seeing around in this community and in Canada as a whole. And it really moves my heart, and it gives me great hope for the future. And the other thing that's happening is there's a lot of people who have had some interesting experiences with our neighbors to the south. And I think it's really worth sharing that a lot of folks in that country do not like how inappropriate members of their government have been. That can feel really good too, to know that other people see that, and that they're apologizing on behalf. That felt meaningful to me as well. Um, and so, we hold out this hope, and that's always going to be an important component of Tuesday night meditation, is bringing hope, bringing love and care and compassion and mindful, loving kindness meditations. We want to heal the world, but first we have to start small by healing ourselves and healing our friends and family. And we can do that. It turns out that by sharing our fears as well as our aspirations, that's how we do it. That's how we bring hope to a really difficult situation. So, you know, that's that's what we got to do. But we also have to sort of talk about the elephant in the room, which is that it's not very fashionable to be kind and respectful. It's not very fashionable to be patient and kind. And it is very fashionable to be very cynical and to ask, well, what's in it for me? And now you owe me, and things like that. Um, and it's also no coincidence that that is the opposite of hope. And it really kind of fragments and creates otherness and all of that stuff. So, and the interesting thing about all of that stuff, that heavy stuff, that cynicism and aggression and fear based, but people can only do that for so long because it leads to a lot of depression and anger and burnout and really poor health outcomes. And so we want to avoid that. We want to kind of rise above, just like Maya Angelou's poem, Rise Above, Rise Still. So, folks, choose hope. And I know that all of you who show up here every Tuesday night, I know that that's very big in your hearts and in your minds. So do what you need to do to cultivate that and grow that and share that because it is contagious. So this is what gives all of our lives meaning when we sense that how we show up and our actions, our behaviors are important and consequential in the world, and it's what drives us to take the next step. So, we know that there are times when it's really difficult, isn't it, to have hope when so many things around us are threatening and scary. And that's what we also hope to do with Tuesday Night Meditation, is to bring calm to our minds and our bodies so that we can release some of those fears and those ruminations, and that we can bring and breathe in calm and peace and give ourselves hope and give the world hope, care, and compassion. So it's very, very, very important. And when I came across this article, I thought, well, I really want to share this with you all. So there was a blogger who is also an essayist named Maria Popova, and she writes that these days I am less certain I will see the rosy outcome I would like, but I'm more determined to meet the future with the best version of myself, the best version of ourselves. And that really is what we try to cultivate and grow by being calm, by showing up, by being present, by being aware, the best version of ourselves. And sometimes we fall down and we get it wrong, but still I rise. Yeah. So, how to do this? I'm going to share with you a couple of things. I've got a couple of things else that I want to do with you, but I don't think I've talked this year about Tonglen meditation. I know that I have in other years past, but so if you're showing up new to this year, you'll hear this, and those of you, it probably will be a repeat, but it's never a bad idea to have something sort of reminded and oh yeah, I remember that. So Tonglen meditation, I'm going to spell it for you because it's sort of hard to pronounce that G, but it's just spelled Tongle, Tonglen meditation. And it's an actual very, very important practice that Buddhists have been doing for thousands of years. And although I'm not a Buddhist monk, I use this a lot in my everyday life and in my practice as a therapist, social worker, because I hear a lot and I am exposed to a lot of pain and suffering. And there are times when I feel very, very helpless and hopeless. And I know that that's not going to serve my patients very well. It's also not going to serve me very well. So very often I'll engage in a Tonglen meditation just as I'm sitting with someone, because the beautiful thing about it is you can be very, very present while doing a Tonglen meditation, and it will help the people that you're sitting with who are suffering. It can help you, the person, to deal with stressful people and stressful situations. It can also sort of serve as a reminder to what is important. And, you know, it reminds us of the power of karma and the power of gratitude. It can help us to be more kind and more present. It can help us to change relationships. It promotes generosity, and it can help you grow spiritually. So it does all of these things. And just how does that work? I'm going to share with you now. It's very, very simple, and and yet so powerful. So I'd like to invite you to think of something that's difficult right now that you're aware of. And it might be something that's personal to you, or it might be something that you're aware of is happening in your community or to friends or family. And imagine that all of that pain and suffering is right in front of you, right in front of you. And it's there, and it's just, it's so raw, and it hurts so much. And of course, it hurts you because it's right in front of you. And this takes a great deal of courage, my friends, but when you're sitting with that kind of pain and suffering, one of the most helpful things you can do is to breathe in very, very deeply. So to sit tall and to turn towards what is hard and difficult and breathe in very, very powerfully, filling your chest and your lungs. And you're going to exhale, because I've got a little more to say about this. So exhale. But the first part of that is breathing in the pain and suffering. And then what we're going to do is we bring in the pain and suffering. We breathe in the pain and suffering that you're sitting in front of. And when you do that, you bring it down into your lungs, into your heart center. And there, in your loving, caring heart center, it's going to be transformed so that when you exhale out, you breathe out care and compassion and love. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to solve a problem. You just need to be present in this way. You just need to show up very courageously and practice this way as you listen and as you share that care, and something in you softens so that the person or the people or whatever that you're being present with, they sense that in you. And boy, oh boy, do they. Don't just take my word for it. Give this a try sometime. So I'm going to just walk you through that again. So you're breathing in that pain and that suffering, and you're bringing it down to your heart center, into your lungs. And as you exhale out so much care and love and compassion. And sometimes it's helpful to imagine this as a color or a light, or it can be an energy. So just taking a moment now in your mind's eye to again imagine that you're sitting with someone who is suffering, and you're sitting there and you're breathing in their pain, their suffering, and all of their sort of almost negative energy, right? You're breathing it in, bringing it to your heart center where it will be transformed very powerfully. And as you exhale out love and care and compassion. And you may see that as a light or a color or sparkles or glimmers, whatever it may be. And then just imagine that being all around this person that is suffering, or all around a community or whatever it is. So again, breathing in the pain and suffering as you listen, as you open your heart, and as you bring it in, it transforms in your heart. And as you exhale out, you release love and care and compassion and light and a healing energy, perhaps. However you'd like to visualize that, however you'd like to see that in your mind's eye, whatever it looks like. Sometimes I imagine it's my favorite color, and I see that surrounding the person that I'm sitting with, all while I'm listening, all while I'm feeling something shift in me from just taking in a few Tonglen breaths. So let's try that again, bringing to mind the suffering of someone or something or some situation and seeing it in your mind's eye. And our natural inclination is to tense up a little bit, but drop your shoulders, breathe in very, very deeply. All of that to your heart center, where it will be transformed into a lightness, into an energy, into peace and healing, care, love, calm. And this helps so much because, as we talked about, it resonates with you, with the person. And it's something. When there's nothing else that can be done, this feels like something, and I believe that it is something. I've seen it transform not only myself, but other people. And it's really, really unique to anything else that we can do for people sometime. And what I see is that sometimes, because of that calming presence, that people are able sometimes to kind of see and feel hope and to see what the next step might be for them is. It may not necessarily be what's easiest or what they want to do, but they're kind of aware of this is what I have to do, what I can do. And so I just would like to encourage you to use that sometime in your daily life, and even if it's just to benefit yourself because you're suffering with something, um, that's sort of a loving kindness meditation turned inward. But this is something very, very powerful, and many, many times I've used this to just breathe in something difficult and kind of, hold myself and feel that energy, that this is difficult, but I'm here. I'm here and I'm connected. So yeah, so that's Tonglen. And in the time that we'll have left, um, we can, yeah, maybe, just maybe, oh, kind of become aware of our bodies a little bit. Yeah, I see some people stretching and great. Yeah, and so one of the things that I find to be so soothing, and you guys know this about me, my interesting relationship that I feel with gravity. So I'm going to invite you to, in this moment, breathe in comfortably, whatever, however deeply, or just knowing how you need to breathe in this moment, not doing anything fancy, just a lovely breath in that you're aware of, and how you exhale. And the next moment, I'd like you to become aware of your feet. And perhaps they're resting on something, or maybe they're on the ground, noticing any sensations and noticing how heavy, in a very soothing way, how heavy and connected they feel to the earth, to that energy of gravity. And move up through your body, perhaps noticing other places of contact. And with that contact, you can sense into that energy force again, the heaviness of gravity. Just feeling into that, letting yourself sink a little deeper into whatever surface you happen to be resting on, feeling that connection. Sometimes it feels like we're being held or cradled by this powerful energy. As you bring your awareness up to the center of your body, perhaps your sit bones, your abdomen, your lower back, just really sensing into the heaviness, the connection, perhaps the movement of your breath. As you sink a little bit deeper and relax a little bit more into this soothing sensation of connection, breathing and feeling a little bit heavier, a little bit more connected, a little more held and supported. Bringing that awareness into your chest, your heart center, and your back, and into your shoulders. And really sense in now to the heaviness of your arms and your hands. Really feeling sensations of heaviness and connection as your hands feel heavier and heavier. Taking a breath in and releasing, letting go of anything that's no longer serving you now. To breathe awareness and bring awareness to your throat, your neck, your face, your heavy, heavy eyelids, if they're resting closed. Perhaps the heaviness of your tongue resting inside your mouth. Really sensing into that, the wholeness of your entire being, bringing your awareness to the top of your head, perhaps sensing the gentle pull or push of an energy that helps you stay more connected to the earth, more aware of your presence, more aware of your indent into this moment of your awareness. Taking about 2 minutes of clock time now to just continue to breathe, continuing to feel held and supported, cradled by that energy of gravity. Just breathing in and out in your own time, more and more relaxed, more and more certain of that gentle pull and heaviness that we can feel. Thank you. Um, just a few minutes left, but there's certainly time for a loving kindness meditation. Really feels needed now. So you guys know I'm going to repeat and offer these loving kind intentions 3 times. You're going to repeat them. I will keep them fairly brief, given that we just have about 3-4 minutes left. So let's begin. But again, opening your heart and your mind and breathing in deeply as I repeat these phrases. You're going to say them to yourself. Then we're going to exhale. I will say sometimes it's helpful to exhale with a bit of oomph, a bit of sound. In yoga, they call it a lion breath, and it kind of sounds something like this. That can feel good, creates a little vibration here, and that can feel really good. You do that. I don't know if you're with other people and you don't want to freak them out or what, but if you're sitting alone, go for it. It can feel really good. So let's begin. First loving kindness intention that I'd like to offer goes like this. May I, as well as all people in the world, I'm going to rephrase that. May everyone, including myself, may all people, including myself, there we go. May all people, including myself, be safe. I think I used to say, may all beings everywhere. Let's try that again. May all beings everywhere, including myself, feel safe and protected. May all beings everywhere, including myself, feel safe and protected. And what we really mean is to feel free from inner and outer harms. One more time. May all beings, including myself, feel safe and protected. And let's breathe in deeply, filling our chest and our lungs, and exhale, perhaps with lion's breath, knowing that our breath will let those loving, kind intentions travel outside of the rooms that we're sitting in, outside of our homes, into our communities, into the world. And the next one, loving, kind intention that I'd like to offer goes like this. May all beings everywhere, including myself, be happy and content. May all beings everywhere, including myself, be happy and content. And one more time, may all beings everywhere, including myself, be happy and content. And we breathe in. And as we exhale out, imagine those loving, kind intentions that travel again outside of our homes and into our communities to be received by all beings. And the next one, may all beings everywhere, including myself, experience ease and well-being and peacefulness. May all beings everywhere, including myself, experience ease and well-being and peacefulness. And one more time, may all beings everywhere, including myself, experience ease and well-being and peacefulness. And we breathe in and out. Letting all of our loving, kind intentions to be received by all beings everywhere. And that, my friends, concludes our meditation for this evening. And as always, it was so lovely to hang out with you all. And I will see you next week. And there'll be 2 more meditations next week and the week after. And then we'll take our little hiatus until next January. But I want to remind you too that there will be some nature events that my colleague James and I like to do. So we'll invite you to those. You'll get notice of those as well. And anything else that we decide to do in the interim. So For tonight, though, I wish you all good night and namaste. I'm looking at all of your names and some of your faces. Good night, everyone.